The Dodge freaking Hellcat. You start with over 700 horsepower, which is enough to motivate that sucker down the quarter mile in less than 11 seconds, which is insane. You know that the entire movie franchise was built around making a 10-second car, right, Brian?
I owe you a 10-second car.
And this is a 10-second car that you can just buy off the lot. And no one has to get shot, poor little Jesse.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, the Dodge Hellcat. I don't need to remind you how fast it is. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about a question that I've been dreaming up in my little head. Is the Hellcat a supercar? Before you break out your little keyboards and start commenting, I challenge you to watch this entire video all the way through. Because the answer is a little more complicated than it initially seems. And we here at Ideal love talking cars. So let's talk this out. And before we begin, of course, hit the subscribe button because we're gonna keep bringing you content like this pretty much every other day. And without further ado, let's get into this. Let's start this off with something really simple. What is a supercar? I'm sure you have an idea in your head, but amazingly, there is actually no specific definition of the word. And if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 12 different answers. Like if you ask the guys over at Ferrari, they're gonna say it's defined by speed and exclusivity. And if you ask the team over at Top Gear, they're gonna say that a supercar pushes the limits of what a sports car can be. But to show how times have changed, if you asked Car and Driver back in the 60s, they said a supercar was just a really fast muscle car. I mean, AMC even used the SC designation for their Rambler, which stood for supercar. And I don't think that fit anybody's definition of a supercar today. So if you go by the definition of Car and Driver in the 60s and AMC, yeah, the Hellcat's a supercar. Case closed. Well, of course, not exactly. Words and language evolve over time. So pretty much since the 1980s, no one has used the word supercar to define a muscle car. And supercar is one of those words that devolves probably more than most words in the English language. I mean, a really fast car in the 1950s, something that might have been called a supercar like the Mercedes 300 SL, would be left at the light by a new Camry today. The 0 to 60 time of the 300 SL was 9 seconds. And a modern Camry does it in 5.8. That's considered slow now. So you can't say a supercar is really defined by a specific number of acceleration, because those numbers are constantly evolving, and modern car features are constantly improving. The speed at which cars are developing is making the definition of supercar ever more challenging. Now, there's a really famous quote that comes out of the Supreme Court here in the States, and it goes, "I may not be able to define it, but I'll know it when I see it." Now, Justice Stewart, who that quote's attributed to, was actually talking about pornography at the time, but the idea still stands. Even if you can't specifically define what a supercar is today, you kind of know what a supercar is when you see it. But that doesn't really make this video very satisfying, and it leaves it up to too much interpretation. And of course, there's just gonna be way too many comments arguing about it down below. So let's get into it a little deeper than that. We've done a ton of research on the subject here at Ideal, and we have come down to this definition from Wikipedia. Because, you know, crowdsourced definitions, usually pretty accurate. A supercar is a street-legal sports car that is luxurious, exclusive, and very, very fast. So does the Hellcat fit that definition? I bet you already have an answer. Hang on, watch the video, then answer. Let's take it step by step. First, is a Hellcat street legal? Yes, this might actually be easier than we thought. Okay, next, is the Hellcat a sports car? Now here is definitely where we run into a big issue. You see, there are actually a few different definitions of sports car, but almost all of the definitions emphasize handling, 2 seats, and a low seating position. Now, for all of its flaws, the Hellcat does have a great suspension system. There are custom-made bill signs that keep that thing planted to the ground in pretty much any situation. The suspension is highly adaptable and is built specifically to handle the extra weight of that massive motor up front. Muscle cars of today have come a long way from the horrible handling, boaty muscle cars of the 1960s. But no one will argue this fact. The Dodge Hellcat is not the best handling car in its class. And specifically, the Dodge Charger Hellcat has 4 seats and 4 doors, so defining it as a sports car really starts to become difficult. However, when you look at other examples of supercars, the definition might still hold. I mean, no one would argue that the Ferrari GT4C Lusso was not a supercar. I mean, it didn't handle as well as other cars in its class, and it had 4 seats, and actually weighs as much as a Hellcat Challenger. You see, the definition of sports car is really, really squishy, because even if you Google the word supercar, the Aston Martin Rapide AMR shows up pretty quickly, and that car has 4 doors. Thankfully, the Hellcat designation is not just limited to the Charger, and if a low-slung 2-door, custom-built car with decent handling can be defined as a supercar, well, my friends, there is always the Hellcat Challenger. So if you ask me, if we're talking specifically about the Dodge Hellcat Challenger, I think it passes the sports car test. Now here's one we're gonna try to get through with a straight face. Luxury. Is the Dodge Hellcat luxurious? Ferraris and Lamborghinis pride themselves on being the epitome of a luxurious driving experience. So is the Hellcat luxurious? If you're looking at cars from 20 years ago, sure. A modern day Hellcat has unparalleled luxury. Glass panels, a huge 8.5-inch touchscreen, an ergonomic wheel, really puffy bolstered seats. Hell, there's a ton of carbon fiber, which was only found in supercars of the past. You couldn't even get some of that in the McLaren when they first launched. Now you compare it to other modern supercars like the Audi R8, and the Hellcat's American utility first interior kinda seems a little bit lacking. The R8's cockpit is molded to the driver. It is a true driver's car. It's like being in the cockpit of a fighter jet, which who doesn't want that? Fighter jets are so cool, you guys. Now you look at a Hellcat, and it's got cup holders, which is pretty nice, but it's certainly not on the level of an Audi R8 or even the C8 Vet. But that doesn't disqualify it. Some supercars aren't really luxurious at all. Take, for example, the Acura NSX, the new one, or the old one. In the new one, you get a steering wheel and a tiny screen. It's still a supercar. What about the Lotus Evora? It's got even less features than the Acura. It's still a supercar. So in that regard, the Hellcat actually has these two supercars beat in the luxury department. So by that metric, is the Hellcat's interior at the level of a modern supercar? And it kind of is. Like, no one's arguing that a Honda NSX or a Lotus Evora is not a supercar. And if you ask me, I'd kind of rather be piloting a Hellcat. So that's 3 for 3 so far for the Hellcat being a supercar. This is a stronger case than I assumed there would be when I set out with this question. But the next determining factor of supercars is exclusivity. The rarity of a Lamborghini or the Lexus LFA is part of what makes them so special. And at first glance, the Dodge Hellcat is just a spruced up passenger car. So is it exclusive? The reason you don't own a supercar is because they're expensive and rare. I mean, there are only 14,000 Huracans produced so far, and they all cost over 200,000 bucks. And a Huracan is basically an entry-level Lamborghini. It's as common as a Honda Civic when you compare it to other models like the Performante or even most Ferraris. Now, when you break down those sales numbers of the Huracan, that means that 2,800 of them were sold every year. Meanwhile, cars like the Hellcat Red Eye are just super common, souped-up passenger cars, right? Well, actually, they're rarer than that Huracan we're talking about.
Say what?
Yeah, it's true. First, there are less than 4,000 Hellcat Red Eye Challengers on the road today. That means there are 10,000 more Huracans driving around. You are 3 times more likely to be driving a $200,000 Lamborghini than you are an $80,000 Dodge.
Can you believe that?
Okay, I know we're talking about the Red Eye, but if you include all of the Hellcats, not just the Red Eyes, there actually aren't that many of them in existence still. About 57,000 total Hellcats have been built so far, which means about 1 Hellcat for every 10,000 Toyota Corollas. I'm not a math wizard, in fact I'm not a wizard at all, but to me, 1 in 10,000 seems pretty exclusive. For an even crazier comparison, if you want to talk about exclusive, there are more F-150s sold than all of the Hellcats combined in just 2 days. Sure, the Hellcat would not be the most exclusive supercar sold today, by any means. But there has to be a least exclusive supercar, right? Why couldn't we make the Hellcat just the least exclusive supercar? Okay, that's kind of a cloudy question. I don't really know where I land on that one. Let's get to the really fun question. Is the Hellcat very, very fast? Yeah, it is. That's the whole point of a Hellcat. So should we call it right here, right now? The Hellcat is a supercar. Well, Here's the thing, the Hellcat is fast. An 11-second quarter mile? There's no arguing that that isn't fast. But it's not just fast straight. It does the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 51 seconds. That is faster than an Aston Martin V12 Vantage. And you would not tell me that's not a fast car. But is a Hellcat supercar fast? And the truth is, it's really not.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
And you're typing right now. It's fine. I understand your anger. I empathize with you. But hear me out. Don't get me wrong. A Dodge Hellcat Challenger would destroy most any supercar in the early 2000s around the ring. And there are purpose-built drag racing cars that would lose to this thing straight out of the dealership. But modern supercars, it's 2021, man. They are just next level fast. They are redefining the word fast every day. I mean, even a Ferrari 458 can do a quarter mile in the mid-10s. And a 911 GT3 can lap the ring almost a full minute faster than the Hellcat. Hitting closer to home, the Dodge Viper, which was Dodge's first love and is still, to me, very much an American supercar, even though they discontinued it and broke my friggin' heart. That Dodge Viper was 40 seconds faster than the Hellcat around the ring. And it's not just the ring times we're talking about here. The Porsche 918, the previously mentioned Huracan, the Atom 500, and even the Tesla P100D all get to 60 miles per hour faster than a Hellcat. Friggin' electrics, man, they're damn fast. The reality is, at the end of the day, if you went to a track day with a Hellcat and hung out with all your supercar friends, you would not be able to hang with them. You would be in the frickin' way. So the easiest question for the Hellcat to answer, is it fast? Actually turns out maybe it's not. So at this point in the video, I don't think the Hellcat is a supercar. Quick, pause the video, throw your comments in, flame me, talk about what I mispronounced in my dumb little hat, whatever, because we're not done yet. There's one more thing we haven't touched on. The Hellcat has another level. A level that pushes the Dodge Challenger square into supercar territory. It's rare, it's radical, and it certainly pushes the limits of what a car is capable of. It'll do a quarter mile in under 10 seconds off the lot. It's called the Demon, and it comes with 840 horsepower. And I'm gonna stop right there. Anything called a Demon is a supercar, because that's just a super name. Whoever named the Demon needs to get a job at McLaren so they can stop calling the cars 720, 360 heel flip names. And you want to talk about exclusive? Only 1 in 17 Hellcats is a Demon. Now, would you classify a Demon in with the other Hellcats? The new Hellcat Red Eye is a replacement for the Demon, and it's absolutely a Hellcat. They even use all the same architecture, and it wouldn't be the first time a car ascends to supercar status just because of a trim level. The most famous is probably the Skyline. The Nissan Skyline is a decent, moderately respectable luxury sports car in Japan, but it's no supercar. It's definitely not amazing. But you get it in the GTR trim, and suddenly you're in supercar territory. Same with the Porsche 911. The base model is a sports car, but the GT3 RS trim level is squarely in supercar territory. And we can go on and on. Corvette versus Corvette ZR1, Viper versus Viper ACR, Mercedes-AMG GT versus AMG GT Black. So by that metric, does the existence of the Dodge Hellcat Demon elevate the Hellcat to the level of a supercar? It's a tough call. Going down the checklist of what makes a supercar, it's pretty easy to see how you could define the Hellcat as a supercar. So before we go any further, tell us what you think in the comments. Hell, I'm gonna put a link to a poll in the description and in the first comment, and you guys can decide whether the Hellcat is a supercar. Just, don't start any civil wars over it. Supercar is actually a completely made up term, just like hypercar. There is no right answer, and this is all in good fun. And the best part is that we can even have this conversation. The Hellcat is a gift to car guys everywhere. It's a production car that anyone with a little cash in their pocket can go buy. And at its price point, the fact that it's even a question that it's a supercar makes it really, really something special. Honestly, ever since Dodge canceled the Dodge Viper, we've been really looking for that new muscle car, supercar energy coming out of America. And the Hellcat proves that Dodge still has what it takes to make the power. Now just imagine if they took that power, that technology, that power plant, and put it into a lightweight, rear-wheel drive sports car with 2 doors. That is what we want here. That is what America needs. Because then we can put this question to rest. Because right now, in my opinion, the Hellcat falls just inches short of being a true supercar. It just doesn't have the performance to hang with something like a McLaren 720 Kickflip S. and it doesn't have that exclusive, rare feeling that you get from a Ferrari when you see it on the street. But it definitely feels like Dodge is dipping their toes back in the Viper waters, and they need to just dive in. So now, tell me what you think down below. Is the Hellcat a supercar? Would you buy a modern Dodge Viper if they made it with that power plant? Or would you stick with the Corvette that's already being made? And this isn't just hopeful thinking. Dodge actually had plans to make a mid-engine Viper back in the 90s. The design ended up being used for the Ford GT in 2006, but that's a story for another day. So the question remains, Dodge, where is that mid-engine Hellcat-powered Viper? And hurry up, because I really want to rent one because I'm not able to buy a $100,000 American muscle car, but I just really want to drive one once. Anyway, I'm the Squid. This has been Ideal. Go down to the down there place, hit the little like button and the subscribe button, even if you disagree with me, because we're gonna keep bringing you content like this so that you can keep living the ideal lifestyle. I'm out of here.